Peter and Christopher, who's first?
Go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead. I own a Pioneer 141 panel,
Yep.
and I don't think I'll jump into 3D because 3D in the theaters just sucks.
Yeah. Well, the experience at
And
home is better.
I want to
The
see
active glasses
4K
work.
resolution TVs,
Right.
2K resolution TVs.
I think,
I think we
the
can
video
get
file
far
says that.
better picture, and if Sony could bring in their 4K projector, that would be nice. So we could see one of those.
Well, we're seeing that happen, especially in the larger screen venues. You know, we're seeing that. 4K will be, I expected it to be a little bit more integrated this year, but I'm sure we're going to see it seedier in the next 2 weeks. A lot of 4K, particularly in projection television.
You'll
We
see it,
really
but it's
blow
going
it
to be
up.
expensive.
Yeah. Well, that's the way it always is when you start off with these technologies. Go ahead, Peter.
Two questions that relate to both Panasonic and Pioneer. You know, the Pioneer panel is a great panel, and I think, Kevin, you and any other calibrator, a lot of these TVs, and Pioneer really, this is sort of a sore point with me, and I'm a Pioneer owner, is the fact that when you're trying to adjust the low end of the TV in terms of grayscale, it doesn't have the granularity in the controls.
And what Pioneer are you talking about?
A 150, an 8th generation.
Okay.
I mean, what I'm
Maybe
talking
the 150, but
Yeah.
the generations after that.
The second gen Coro.
No problem. Right.
No
The
problem.
flattest, most linear grayscale of any
All-
display I've ever
All
found.
across the range.
Well,
Linear.
what I'm saying though is that there's still, relatively speaking, if you're trying to adjust it, let's say a 10 or 20% stimulus level there, that when you're moving those controls, there's still.
Are you saying they're too coarse?
Yes.
Of course.
They may be on your 150, but that's an 8th gen panel, isn't it?
Right, it is.
That's
It
the
is,
first
but
gen Coro. I've
I've worked on 9th generation panels too, and I still think that there's still some.
What do you
Look
use?
at the use the monitor.
What are you using as a meter?
I have an OTC 1000.
That's your problem. I'm sorry to be brutal with you, but that's probably your problem. Because I mean, Dwayne and I have done, I don't know how many 151s, 141s, KRPs. Probably I've done 150 of those models, and I get flat. I mean, just flat as a pancake from 10 to 100.
I think Ed's done a lot of those panels, owns a 150 as well. I know Dwayne has done a lot of those panels.
It's with that, it's all on the control set, and with the 150, definitely. I see what you're saying. I understand exactly what you're saying because it's not. The controls are too coarse. However, with the monitors specifically, the actual grayscale controls on your panel, 1 click equals 2 clicks on those monitors. Right. So they're much better on the 2nd gen, and that's another thing with all panels themselves. The grayscale controls need to be more finer compared to the coarse ones that we have.
Yeah, it is an issue.
That's something that we want. Exactly.
More so, I think, with others, but it is an issue as well.
Right. What we would on the calibrator side, what we would prefer is a 10-point grayscale that touches each point and only that point.
There you go.
Right.
That's the best thing.
We need 10-point calibration.
Yeah.
That's the best.
Well, Samsung offers that, and so does
Samsung and LG offer that right now.
It really, really helps a lot in getting the performance peaked as fine as possible. Thanks, David. Please go ahead.
I want to back him up a little bit. Not on the Pioneer.
Yeah.
But I do think that down at the low level, you get much less granularity generally than at the high level, and that's where you have your greatest eye sensitivity. And so that's where it would be the most important to have it move in finer and finer gradations.
Well, and
I thought that was the general point you were making, right? And there I'm firmly with you.
Meter thing out of this, because we could talk meters for days. If you use an octopel generator and you use it, right? If you take it and throw it on the grayscale pattern and then use the alt button so that you're essentially looking at 0 to 10, I don't care what TV it is. And again, I haven't calibrated as many, Kevin, as I probably won't calibrate in my lifetime as you have, Kevin. But if you take any TV, use that generator, put that pattern on there, manipulate the bottom controls, you're going to see color shift within 1 or 2 clicks in every single one of those TVs. So it's an issue of granularity. Can it be exacerbated by a meter? Yes, it can. In the control panel software, you have a low light enabler, so I'm taking at least 15 to 20 samples with the OTC. And yes, when I have the chance to be able to upgrade on that thing as well, but I think where it can be an issue that is somewhat exacerbated depending on what the light handling capabilities of the meter are. It's still really much more an engineering issue in terms of what's happening at low light level.
I understand what you're saying now. He's basically saying that the control set from any manufacturer from 0 to 10 is not as effective as from 10 to 100. Now that part I can agree on. However, you have to look at it as far as what sensors can actually truly measure that low.
I understand.
Yeah. And two, and the most important is when there's regular content on the screen or even low APL content, can your eyes truly discern a difference between what your meter is reading as far as errors and what it should look like? That's the ultimate question that needs to be asked and answered.
And you know what? If you look at a lot of reviews of TVs,
right,
what you'll see is that the IR scale or the percent stimulus scale, whatever you want to call it, goes from 20 to 100. No one wants to show 0 to 10, and that's the truth.
I don't do that. A lot of people do that.
Read reviews
right.
and look at the numbers.
And it's also based on what sensors they have doing the measurements. Because again, if your sensor can't read below 20 stimuli level, what's the point of showing the data in the first place? It's worthless.
But here's my real question to this person, because he should know the answer is there a way to get more granularity?
Part of the problem on all of these digital screens, whether you're doing it through pulse modulation or through amplitude modulation, that's the difference basically between plasma and LCD. If you're at the very lowest level, you go to the next pulse and you're only at 1 to start out with, regardless of how small that is, you've now doubled. So when you're at the highest level, where we have 4,096 levels, we can add an extra pulse in control, and it's nothing.
Right.
And so you can just lock in on the higher signals, and then gamma crushes the black levels naturally because it was made for a CRT where it's broadcast high, and now we have to crush. You go 32 levels before anything happens on a gamma 2.2, which is what Kevin, you were talking about. I mean, it's just really because of the digital nature, it's very hard to fine-tune the low end, because one extra pulse can mean 50% more.
Exactly.
So I don't know what you do other than make those pulses even smaller and go from 10-bit to 12-bit, and we've been doing that. We've been playing a lot with trying to make those pulses smaller through, in the old days, called it dithering, where you go between.
I hate dithering.
Everyone hates dithering, but noise injection is a better term now.
Thank you.
So
That's like black frame insertion.
I love that.
Insert a black frame.
But it's true of all digital devices, and the only way to get the higher gradation at the low end is just increase your bit scale from 8 bits, which you also talked about. We're dealing with 8-bit standards.
We want to see 10. We want to see 10.
We want to see 10-bit panels, which no one has.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no one has a true 10-bit panel.
Right. But if you're building these high-end panels, 10-bit is what we need to really achieve what we're looking to do.
Yeah. No, I love digital. Yeah. We're all there.
Right.
Get the cat's out of the box. We're not going back to analog.
No,
but digital, you have to go to a wider digital space in order to get that resolution that you want on the end, the low end. But it's still going to be very granular compared to the high end, just because we just.
Let me just add one more thing: is that there is no content out there that is 10-bit.
Right. Well,
the content is 8-bit.
No, it's not. 8-bit.
Unless you, it's
whenever we
video
move the content from one
pushed.
device to the other, we need to keep the panel at a higher bit rate. Don't you think?
Well, like he's saying, there's so much
moving
bits that
the
you're
data
addressing.
around.
So the content is
we
not.
need to process it 10 bits. Do you think?
I agree. The processing needs to be a step up, but I think you have to keep in mind that when a consumer's watching Blu-rays or whatever, they're watching 8-bit video from the source.
Now you need the source.
If you can have a 10-bit panel, we can resolve 8-bit beautifully.
Right. Yeah.
That's what we want to do.
Well, an 8-bit panel should be able to.
It should
translate an 8-bit signal perfectly, but it doesn't.
That would be a challenge. I think it's easier to make a 10-bit panel. but I don't know. But I was so happy to hear Bill, of all people, say that the high-end manufacturers are listening to us. Because I honestly was wondering why Robert would come here, why Bill would come here. I think they're trying to recruit from the pool of party of experts. So you might get some resumes Monday morning. Because I was so happy to hear you say that, and certainly we put together.
We're all learning. It's a great communication.
That's great. Thank you for saying that.
When I saw the little blip on my email from Twice,
yeah,
I saw I was interested, went to my VP, and I said, they're doing this, and he immediately was like, so I'm going. And I'm like, all right, I wanted to go anyway. So it was something that we wanted to be part of, because we do want to hear what's going on.
That's
translating that to Japan sometimes takes a bit more work.
That's a great question.
Thanks so much. I really thank you. Thanks.
We are listening.
Just to add one more thing to that, you know, as a video engineer at Sony, I actually am ISF certified.
Right.
Yeah, I got my certification 2 years ago. I finished my class at Kevin said. So, and that's because of what this communication that was going on, and we are listening. We are feeding things back to Japan, and it's slowly coming on. It's just, you know, you have to. It's like steering the Titanic with your hands, right? It just takes a long time. But people are listening. We are working. That's why I'm here. That's why he's
really fantastic.